Let's talk about delivery, dividing delivery up into two different parts, our visual delivery and vocal delivery. Delivery is important as far as you learning to manage your nervousness in a little bit more detail. We're going to use delivery to help us, in addition to all the tools you've already learned about in managing anxiety, but we can use delivery as well. And there are different methods of delivering a speech, and we are doing extemporaneous speeches, which means we're planning and organizing our ideas, but then we're just going to talk about them with our audience and explain it in a more natural conversational voice, as if you're talking to a friend, but just a little bit more formal and organized. All right, so let's dive into vocal delivery. A lot of our vocal delivery ties into our nonverbal chapter where we learn about paralanguage. We are specifically going to be looking at volume, pitch, rate, pronunciation, articulation, and vocal variety. It's our method of expressing of ourselves. It also, as I said, helps us manage our nervousness. We want you to sound confident with your speech. We also want you to be excited about your speech. I know a lot of times students have a great topic, but they sound bored when they deliver it. So when we're delivering a speech, we need to have some energy, which when we use energy in our speech and are energetic in our delivery, it actually helps release some of that adrenaline, which can then help you feel a little bit less nervous. So you need to sound excited and interested in your own topic in order for us to be interested. We like you to play with your voice. That's what we're calling vocal variety. So we want you to have nice volume. We want you to make sure that you are projecting loud enough so that individuals in the back of the room could hear you, or so that recording equipment, if there's not a mic nearby, can pick up your speech. So we like to speak actually from our gut and down with our diaphragm and not in our throat. It sounds more nasally when you speak with your throat. If you speak from your gut, it's a more well-rounded sound and it's easier to be louder. I just played with that just a little bit there. I'm not sure if you could hear that. So we want to make sure that we're projecting. At the same time, it's okay to be a little louder or a little softer. Sometimes we're talking about more serious things and we might soften our voice a little bit. Or we're trying to regain our audience's attention. You might be a little softer and be a little bit louder, just for emphasis. Pitch is how high or low your voice sounds. For those of you who are in music, an instrument, or choir or singing, you know some of these vocabulary words: soprano, bass, tenor. Real life examples would be Mickey and Minnie Mouse. They are very high pitched, squeaky voices. Kind of annoying. We only can handle so much of that. Lower pitch voices, anybody that's a DJ, radio personality, or television star will use a lower pitch voice. It's easier to hear and to sound. We like that sound better. But it's natural for everybody to be a little high and low. You get more excited about something, your pitch tends to go up. We tend to get a little bit more serious, our pitch tends to drop or lower. But you have some experience with this if you've ever read a book to a child. We play with our voices. We use volume, we use pitch. We also use some of the items on the next slide. So let's take a look at what's next. The rate of speech, how fast or slow. We learned a little bit about this concept in listening, where we speak about an average of 125 words per minute. But when you're giving a speech and you're nervous and that adrenaline is flowing, we tend to speed up. And we can process that as an audience, but we want to make sure that you vary your rate. Don't always speak so fast. Maybe pause a few times so that you can especially breathe. But we can pause to add meaning. We can pause to breathe. Those are helpful tools. But but speaking a little bit faster, a little bit slower. If you're going to give statistics or data, you're going to need to slow down because we won't be able to process all of that. And that's natural when you're just talking to your friends. You speed up, you slow down. So be strategic with your pauses, right? Add the exclamation point to your sentences or the question marks, and then pause. If you ask a question, pause. If you're trying to have a little bit of drama, add pauses, right? And it's better to pause and breathe than to fill it with these vocal fillers, nonverbal pauses. We call them several different things. Disfluencies, the and or like you knows, those are vocal fillers. So we want to be strategic about our pauses and breathing and not fill them with those nonverbal nonverbal pauses. So our goal is for vocal variety. As I said, when we're naturally speaking, we do this anyway. When you don't have variation, like this heart monitor that goes up and down, right? That's normal. When somebody passes away, it's flatline on that heart monitor. And when you flatline with your voice, that's monotone. When you give a speech in a monotone voice, it sounds very robotic. It's very uninteresting. This is what happens when you read, right? And we really struggle with that as an audience. It's very difficult for us to hear. I do have a few video clips posted in here. I had a State Farm commercial on a previous slide, which is the same exact wording, but two different scenes where they used all of that paralanguage to create different meaning. It's a great example, but you can come check those out on the PowerPoint. If you've seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Ben Stein, the actor who plays the teacher, you can Google it if you've not heard it before or check it. I think that's the one I have posted here in this link. But he is very monotone in his delivery. He's in that character role. He's actually very monotone, very slow, and very nasally. He speaks from his nose in his throat. So that's 3 strikes, you're out. Bad delivery. Now, granted, he was just calling roll and not giving a speech, but it's a good example of what not to do. So we want you to sound like you, just the more refined you. So we play with our voice. When we play with our voice, we hide some of that nervous, shaky voice that sometimes happens as a symptom of nervousness. It's more obvious when you're monotone. When you play with your voice, it's hidden in that vocal variety. Breathing also helps with a shaky voice. Pronunciation and articulation are two different things. We use them interchangeably, so we're not accurate when we do that. Pronunciation is saying the word in the way that is intended to, the formation of the sounds. And you can figure out how to pronounce any word before your speech. You don't know somebody's name, how to pronounce somebody's name, you figure it out before. So pronunciation is actually fairly easy. You figure out how to say the word and then practice saying it. Okay. When athlete is the correct pronunciation, a lot of people say athlete and they add in an A. And so then athlete would be mispronouncing that word. It's athlete. Or the month that comes after January, we mispronounce that month. Or the white liquid we put on our cereal in the morning, it's milk, M-I-L-K, down here at the bottom, not milk, M-E-L-K. Right? So those would be issues of pronunciation. Articulation is actually saying all of the syllables that need to be said. And sometimes we add in, like with athlete, instead of saying athlete, we add in a syllable. And so then we are maybe trying to over articulate and mispronounce the word at the same time. But when you speak fast or you use slang, we tend to slur our words together. And when we do that, then we are not articulating. We want to not drop an ending sound. I'm going to the store, not gonna go, or I'm going to the store. I know we're in the South, so we say fishing and swimming, but no, it's going, it's fishing, it's swimming is good articulation. All right, so that's what we want to work on for vocal delivery. We want energy in our voice. We want to remember to breathe. We want to play with our voice. That's going to help us hide the nervousness a little bit. The practicing part of your speech is summarized here on this slide. First of all, I would practice with your full outline that you've created, the one that you're going to submit to me, all nice, neat, and organized. After that, I would create your speaking notes. And what I suggest that you do is you delete 90% of the words, increase the font size. I would actually print them out and cut them and paste them on note cards. Note cards are easier to hold and manage in your hand than pieces of paper. And pieces of paper, when you hold it up, will make noise. I don't know if you heard that, but I was shaking a piece of paper. And when you're nervous and you're shaking a little bit anyway, then we can hear the piece of paper. So I would always use note cards. I prefer 4x6. They're large enough for you to hold in your hand and be able to see at a glance. Your note card should only have keywords and phrases. I would keep the same outline format on your cards, like your A's, B's, 1, 2, 3s, because that's already in your head. So when you look at and glance at your notes, it's already similar to what you've worked on. You also add in delivery cues and reminders on your note cards, like reminding yourself to breathe. Maybe you highlight that or use a red ink on that, or you want to remind yourself to move or to change your slides or highlight your source citations. You customize it to give you direction on what you should be doing in your speech. Okay. And so I would practice from my full outline first because that's what you're most familiar with. And you do it by yourself, standing up, and time it every time you practice it. And then once you're fairly comfortable with that, then move to your note cards. Again, practicing by yourself. We are glancing at our notes when we need them. So when you blank out or you forget, you glance at your notes. We're not reading our note cards. Now, if you have a quote or statistics or something, it's okay to read the quote, but you're not reading your speech. I can tell how many notes are on your note card without looking at them. And most of the time, you'll have way too many. So practice with your note cards. Then, after you've done that, then I would practice in front of an audience, not before that. Sometimes you jump in too quickly of practicing in front of an audience. I would practice several times a day for about a week. Give yourself time to get used to saying the idea. And because we're focusing on ideas, every time you practice will be slightly different. And that's okay. Are you communicating the idea? That's our whole key here. Timing it every time you practice. It will be longer when you first start. The more you practice, you start speeding up. And so that gives you time to determine, do you have enough material? If your speech is running 2.5 minutes, you do not have enough material. You might need to incorporate more research and add a few subpoints in. If your speech is running long, you might need to cut material, and I can help you with all of that if you need help. Okay. You can actually practice recording yourself and watch yourself before and see what you look like. Test the lighting, test the sound out, right? Those are things that you need to do in the practicing of your speech. Okay. So that's my tips on vocal delivery and practicing. My other video has the tips on your visual delivery.